Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing something that sounds like a science fiction plot, but it's not. It's real, it's declassified, and it's one of the darkest chapters in American history. Between 1953 and 1973, the CIA conducted one of the most unethical experiments ever performed on human beings. A program codenamed MKUltra. The goal? To weaponize the human mind, to develop techniques of mind control, to turn ordinary people into programmable agents. Thousands of people were subjected to this program. Many didn't know they were being experimented on. They had LSD secretly administered to them. They were tortured. They were psychologically destroyed, and decades later, survivors are finally coming forward with their testimonies. Today, we're exploring the declassified evidence of MKUltra and hearing from survivors who experienced the horrors of a government that turned human consciousness into a weapon. The program began with fear. After World War II, the United States learned that Soviet prisoners of war had been subjected to interrogation techniques that seemed to work on a psychological level. The fear was that the Soviet Union had developed methods of mind control, methods that could turn American soldiers against their own country. In response, CIA Director Allen Dulles authorized a program called MKUltra. The mission was clear: develop mind control techniques before the Soviets perfected them. Find the perfect interrogation drug. Create a truth serum, and if possible, create the perfect controlled agent, a Manchurian candidate, a person whose mind could be completely programmed. The program was placed under the direction of a CIA chemist named Sidney Gottlieb. Gottlieb was brilliant but unethical. He believed that the ends justified the means. He believed that in the name of national security, anything was permissible. What's particularly disturbing is that the CIA hired Nazi scientists to advise on MKUltra. After World War II, through Operation Paperclip, the United States brought over 1,600 German scientists to America. Some of these scientists had conducted experiments in Nazi concentration camps. They had tortured prisoners. They had tested psychological techniques, and the CIA wanted to learn from them. So MKUltra wasn't just a new program. It was a continuation of Nazi experimentation, a direct inheritance of the torture and mind control techniques developed by the Third Reich. The CIA took those methods and applied them to American citizens. MKUltra had 149 sub-projects, each one exploring different aspects of mind control. The methods used included LSD administration, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological torture, electroshock therapy, and sound manipulation. One infamous sub-project was called Operation Midnight Climax. The CIA rented an apartment in San Francisco. They furnished it to look like a high-end brothel. Red velvet curtains, mood lighting. They hired sex workers to help with the experiments. Then they invited unsuspecting men to the apartment. Without their knowledge, the CIA spiked their drinks with LSD. Then they observed them through two-way mirrors. They took notes on how the drug affected their behavior, how it changed their perception of reality, how it could potentially be used for interrogation purposes. The experiments continued for nearly a decade. Thousands of people were unknowingly drugged. Their minds were altered without their consent. They were observed, documented, and then sent back into the world with no knowledge of what had been done to them. But the most horrific experiments took place in institutions, in psychiatric hospitals, in prisons, in places where vulnerable people could be easily exploited. One particularly disturbing example involves Dr. Ewen Cameron at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Cameron was conducting what he called de-patterning experiments. He would put patients into drug-induced comas for weeks at a time. He would administer electroshock therapy, hundreds of electroshocks in a single month. He would bombard patients' minds with repeated messages played on loop through speakers. Some patients heard the same message 500,000 times. The goal was to wipe away their existing personality, to de-pattern them, to create a blank slate that could be reprogrammed. One victim was a woman named Esther Schreier. She entered the hospital in 1960 seeking treatment for what would today be called postpartum depression. Instead, she was subjected to 30 days of continuous sleep deprivation through drugs. She received electroshock therapy. She was bombarded with repetitive messages. After 30 days, her own family didn't recognize her. She couldn't remember who her husband was. She couldn't remember how to boil water. She had been completely depatterned. Her personality, her memories, her sense of self had been erased. Thousands of people were harmed by MKUltra, but many remained silent for decades because they didn't understand what had happened to them. How could they explain that their government had done this to them? Who would believe them? One notable victim was Whitey Bulger, a mobster who was imprisoned in the 1950s. He volunteered for what he was told was an experiment to find a cure for schizophrenia. Instead, he was given LSD every day for over a year. The experiment had nothing to do with schizophrenia. It was pure mind control research. Another victim was Frank Olson, an Army biochemist. In 1953, his CIA supervisor secretly dosed him with LSD without his knowledge or consent. Olson became deeply disturbed by the experience. He began to question the morality of the work he was doing. He wanted to resign. A week after being dosed with LSD, Frank Olson fell from a 13-story window in New York City. The official story was suicide. But in 1994, when his body was exhumed, forensic evidence showed cranial injuries suggesting he had been knocked unconscious before falling. The medical examiner ruled his death a homicide. The official story had been a lie. The Olson family has spent decades trying to get justice. They believe their father was murdered by the CIA because he had become a security risk, because he knew too much, because he was going to expose the program. More recently, survivors have begun coming forward. A woman named Land Ponting was only 15 years old when her parents admitted her to a psychiatric hospital. She emerged damaged. She doesn't even remember what was done to her because she was so heavily drugged. A man named Lloyd Schreier's mother, Esther, was subjected to the depatterning experiments. She spent the rest of her life trying to recover from the psychological damage. She never fully did. The trauma followed her until her death. For years, MKUltra remained completely secret. The government denied it existed. The media was kept in the dark. Only in 1975 did the truth begin to emerge. A Senate committee led by Senator Frank Church began investigating intelligence agencies. They uncovered evidence of MKUltra. Documents were released, testimonies were heard. The American people learned that their government had been conducting illegal experiments on its own citizens. The Church Committee determined that the program had violated the Nuremberg Code, the same code that the United States had established after World War II to prevent future atrocities. The same atrocities that were now being committed by the CIA. But here's what's most disturbing. When CIA Director Richard Helms learned that investigations were beginning, he ordered all MKUltra files destroyed. Thousands of documents were incinerated. Evidence was destroyed. The full scope of the program will never be known. The surviving documents show that MKUltra involved over 80 institutions, universities, hospitals, prisons, research centers, all across the United States and internationally, all participating knowingly or unknowingly in human experimentation. The CIA was conducting mind control research on American citizens, on unwitting subjects, in violation of every ethical principle, in violation of laws, in violation of fundamental human rights. And they got away with it. No one was ever prosecuted. No CIA official ever faced justice. The survivors were left to pick up the pieces of their destroyed lives. This raises a crucial question. MKUltra officially ended in 1973, but did the research actually stop? Or did it simply go deeper underground? Some former CIA officers have suggested that mind control research continued even after the official end of MKUltra. A retired CIA veteran named Victor Marchetti has stated in interviews that the CIA has continued conducting mind control research. The methods have evolved, the techniques have advanced, but the goal remains the same: control of human consciousness. What about the survivors? In 2025, survivors and their families are still fighting for justice. They're pursuing lawsuits against the government, They're demanding reparations, they're demanding accountability. But the government has resisted. It argues that enough time has passed that classified information cannot be revealed, that sovereign immunity protects the government from liability. The survivors point out that if MKUltra was truly an aberration, truly a program that violated American values, then why does the government continue to resist accountability? Why continue to hide documents? Why continue to protect those responsible? The answer might be that MKUltra never truly ended. Perhaps it evolved. Perhaps the techniques were refined. Perhaps mind control research continues to this day under different names and different programs. MKUltra represents one of the darkest chapters in American history. It represents a government that decided its security was more important than the rights of its citizens. A government that was willing to torture, to experiment, to destroy lives in pursuit of power. The program affected thousands of people. Many are dead now. Many survivors have spent their lives dealing with psychological trauma they didn't choose. Trauma inflicted by their own government. If you believe that truth matters, if you believe that governments should be held accountable for their crimes, if you believe that this history should never be forgotten, subscribe to this channel. We explore the hidden history, the atrocities committed in the name of national security, the testimonies of survivors, the evidence that governments work to suppress. Like this video if you think MKUltra survivors deserve justice. Leave a comment if you believe the government should be held accountable. Share this with someone who needs to know this history. Thank you for watching. Keep questioning. Keep seeking truth. We'll see you in the next one.